Be unveiled later this morning.
The party says it'll mean more than 1 million people will be helped buy their house at a discount. The manifesto is being launched in Wiltshire, and the Home Secretary, Theresa, joins us from there now. Very good morning to you. Thanks very much for talking to us. Let's talk about details. So it's an extension of the right to buy scheme. Who is extended to and how is it going to work?
Yes, a certain number of people obviously in the past who were in local authority housing had the right to buy, and a lot of people took that opportunity up when it came in. But what we are doing is saying that we would extend that right to buy to housing association tenants. That means that another 1.3 million families will get the opportunity to buy their home at a discount, and it'll enable those people to own their own home. And that's what this is about. What our manifesto is actually about securing people's future, giving them those opportunities at every stage of their life to have that security. Owning your own home is part of that, and this policy will enable, as I say, 1.3 million more families to have that opportunity to buy their home at a discount and own their own home.
OK, how is it going to be paid for? I understand it's going to be paid for through selling council houses and raising, what, some £4.5 billion. Can you make that kind of money?
Yes, and it's not just, it's a very clear policy which is about actually saying to local authorities that we think they should manage their housing stock better by selling off the most expensive properties they've got. That will raise £4.5 billion a year. That will enable not just those local authorities, those councils, to replace the houses that they're selling with more affordable homes, but it will also mean that money will be available for the extension of this right to buy discount. And I think that's right, because it says that rather than perhaps one family living in a very expensive property that a local authority owns, actually it means that more families will have the opportunity to have affordable homes and to be living in their own home that they own. OK,
so let's sort of dissect that £4.5 billion. How many houses does that mean the councils will have to sell in a year?
Well, that is based on something like, I think it's 15,000 houses. It's 4 in every 1,000 houses, but these are at the most expensive end of the scale. These are houses that perhaps currently cost a very significant amount of money. They'll have one family living in them. By doing this, by saying to local authorities, actually, manage your housing stock in this way, manage it better, that means more families can be housed. That's the key thing. It means that we'll be using the housing stock better, more families will be housed. And with the extension of the right to buy, 1.3 million more families with that opportunity to own their own home. That's what our manifesto is about. Okay. It's about giving people that opportunity to have that secure future at whatever stage of their life they're at.
OK, what I want to find out as well about is sort of about waiting lists, because you sell, your idea is that you sell these houses for large amounts of money, as you've just said, and they will then be replaced by other affordable homes. Where are these affordable homes coming, and will there not be a delay which will then have an impact on people needing these affordable homes?
No, well, there's another important part of the policy, because this move in relation to the sale of very expensive local authority houses actually means that we'll also be able to put money into a brownfield regeneration fund too. Now, that could lead over 5 years to the building of 400,000 new homes. That's important too. So what we're doing is seeing through this policy the opportunity for more homes to be built, for more people to be living in their own home, and for more people to be owning their own home.
OK, so you just said 5 years there, so there will be a delay between one and the other?
No, I said 400,000 houses will be built over 5 years. I didn't say there was going to be a 5 years delay in this. Obviously, year on year, people will be coming forward wanting to exercise this right to buy. But it's a very important policy, because it shows the sort of government a Conservative government would be. It shows that we're a government that is on the side of people, on the side of working people who want to get on and build a better future for themselves and their families. And our manifesto will be about securing people's future.
Another thing people will want to know about is about these £12 billion of cuts to welfare. There are £9 billion. We don't know where that's going to come from. You have not said where those cuts are coming from. Are you going to say that before the election or not?
Well, what we've set out is there's a number of principles that would lie behind the decisions we'd be taking in terms of welfare spending. We've given an indication by freezing certain working age benefits that would raise £2 billion, but we would be protecting the most vulnerable, protecting disabled people, protecting pensioners and making work pay. And of course, as more people get into the workplace, which they are doing, have been doing under us in government and would do in the future, because we would see the creation of 2 million more jobs, that's 1,000 jobs a day under a Conservative government in the future. Of course, as more people get into the workplace, that reduces the welfare bill.
You talk about, you've said in principle, you've given indications, but you know, there's this £9 billion. Are you asking voters to sort of, what, hope for the best, write you a blank cheque? What is it?
No, we're not asking them to hope for the best. All voters have to do is actually look at the record that we've had in government. When we came into government, we had to make some tough decisions about public sector spending. That's because the last Labour government left us with the biggest deficit in our peacetime history. And if Labour were to get back into government again, then we would see more of the same. What we have done over the last 5 years is we have ensured, by careful decisions in public sector spending, that we have been able to make the savings necessary. We've seen that deficit cut in half as a percentage of GDP. What we're now setting out in our manifesto today is what a Conservative government for the future would do to secure people's future, building on our long-term economic plan and ensuring that people have that security at whatever stage of their life they are.
Won't give details of that £9 billion, exact details.
Sorry, as I've said, what we will do in relation to the welfare spending is setting out the principles on which that welfare the changes in welfare spending would be based. We've given an indication of one area where it would be possible to make the savings through freezing working age benefits. That raises £2 billion. As I've said, crucially, getting more people into the workplace, of course, reduces the welfare spend, and that's one of the things that we've been doing and would do in the future.
Thank you very much indeed for your time here on Breakfast this morning. Thank you.
Joanna, thanks so much. Well, I'm joined by the Home Secretary, Theresa May. And Home Secretary, let me just put this to you. This policy is fine for people who are in housing association properties, but what about the family who has scrimped and saved to be able to afford a property, and then they see someone in a housing association getting a 70% discount? They are going to be cheesed off.
Well, the first thing I'd say to you, Norman, is that I think it is important that we give those housing association tenants the right to buy. It'll mean 1.3 million more families with the opportunity to buy at a discount, the opportunity to own their own home. And of course, we've got a number of policies which are about helping people to be able to buy their own home, to get their own property, the Help to Buy scheme that we've launched, for example. So there are many ways in which we are helping people. This is about right to buy for a specific group of people who are housing association tenants. And it says that we're actually on the side of working people. We want to provide people with security for their futures at every stage of their life.
Labour say this is yet another of these unfunded spending commitments. You've come out in this campaign that the true cost will be nearer 20 billion than the 4.5 billion you suggested. I mean, this is just winging it in terms of how the details are actually going to work out, isn't it?
No, it isn't. Labour are wrong. These are costed programmes. We have put that through. We have estimates from the Department of Communities and Local Government, so these are solid figures that have been put through. But it's interesting that Labour are attacking this, because this is a very important policy, and it's a differentiation between the Conservatives and the Labour Party. We want to help people to secure their futures. We recognise that people want to own their own homes, and that's why we want to give this opportunity through the right to buy. Labour have a completely different approach. They just want to keep people where they are. That's why we've seen Labour in Wales saying that if they're re-elected after the Assembly elections next year, they'll abolish the right to buy. What a difference between the two parties. One helping people secure their futures, the other holding them down.
But the difficulty is this policy will again diminish the amount of social housing that local authorities can offer. Well, because you're going to replace it with affordable housing, which isn't the same as social housing. So people on the housing waiting list will have to wait even longer if they're on a local authority waiting list.
No, what we're doing in terms of local authority housing is saying that local authorities will be required to sell their most expensive housing stock. And I think that's an important point, because it's saying that if a local authority perhaps has one family living in a very expensive home, actually we think that when that becomes vacant, that property should be sold. Local authorities will be able to replace through affordable homes, and of course in a very expensive home the rent would probably be significantly higher than it would be in an affordable
but
home.
Let me put it to you, when you replace it with an affordable home, that can be sold privately to the private sector rather than a social housing. So the stock of houses that local authorities have to offer their residents will be diminished.
No. What we're talking about is ensuring that local authorities are able to replace properties, so we will see properties and potentially more properties available for families and more people being housed, at the same time as ensuring that those tenants in housing association properties have that opportunity to own their own home. And actually, we think that we will also be raising money to put into a regeneration fund for brownfield sites that over time, over 5 years, could see 400,000 more homes being built. More homes built, more families housed, more families owning their own home. That's about securing people's future under the Conservatives.
How credible is it, though, for Mr Cameron to claim today that you are the party of working people when only, a couple of days ago we saw you coming out with this promise on inheritance tax for properties worth $1 million, which benefits some of the wealthiest families in the country?
Yeah, I think you'll find that inheritance tax proposal actually will benefit a good number of people. And it's not just about those who are immediately affected. It's about people who've worked hard all their lives and are really worried about what's going to happen to their property and for their children when they pass on. That's what somebody said to me on the doorsteps the other day. I'm really worried for my children about the future of this. So that's an important policy, I think, that gives people that reassurance and gives them that security at that stage of their life. The Conservative Party in government, we've seen 1,000 jobs being created every day. We see nearly 2 million more people in employment with the security of being in employment. And we, under a Conservative government, we want to see 2 million more jobs created. Again, 1,000 jobs created every day. That's about giving people the opportunities for the dignity, the respect, the stable income of being in a job and the security for their lives, their families and for their future.
Theresa May, thanks very much for your